there, it's Susie Daphnis here. Welcome to another episode of the Her Business Podcast. Today I want to share a journey with you. It's one that was both physical and mental, but also one that deeply connects to who I am and how I approach all things in my life. Now, about a month ago, I found myself on top of a mountain in Whistler, Canada. In fact, I didn't just find myself there once, I found myself at the summit of this mountain 8 times. Yep, you heard that correctly, 8. Months before that, I decided to train for something I had never thought I would do. It's called 29029 Everesting, and it's where you hike the height of Everest in under 36 hours. And on this particular mountain in Whistler, it's called Blackcomb Mountain, that meant that I would climb the mountain 8 times. And as you can imagine, it turned out to be one of the toughest physical challenges of my life. But it was also an opportunity for bravery, for knowing myself in a way I'd never known myself before, and it was a lesson in dedication. So how did I end up doing something insane like hiking the height of Everest? Well, it started 2 years ago when my business and life partner, PJ, he decided to hike it himself. He was having a milestone birthday and he wanted to do something that would really stretch him and was really way outside of his comfort zone. He did it and it was absolutely life-changing. And if you go back a couple of years of episodes of the Her Business Podcast, you'll find an episode where I interviewed him and we got so much feedback on that episode. He had such an incredible experience. He said the organisation was so supportive, the volunteers were amazing, and that feeling of summiting that final time was unlike anything he'd done before. So fast forward 2 years and PJ decided that he was going to do it all again, even though it was one of the most difficult things that he had done in his life. So like any sane person would say, I said, you go have fun, but I'm a firm no. It just wasn't something I could see myself doing, and I thought that that was that. But on the day that the ticket sales opened up for this particular Whistler hike, a dear friend of mine was with us, and she heard that PJ was doing it, so she decided she was going to go for it. She was going to push herself to complete this extremely challenging feat as well. Now, this is a friend who I have run half marathons with, who I've trained with at the gym. We have a lovely friendship. And she told me that she was going to do it, and something clicked inside of me. I realized that even though this event was not something I would ever do alone, part of me really wanted to do it with her by my side. And I thought that if I had the support, that community around me, maybe I could actually do this thing. And I'm not ashamed to say that I don't think I could have done it alone. I think sometimes, especially in business, we need an extra push from a peer, right? I've always believed in the power of community, of accountability, and sometimes you just need a partner or a mentor to challenge you to step up. Or in my case, to step up 29,029 times, which is that's the number of steps it is, the number of feet it is, to Everest, the top of Everest. That's why it's called 29029 Everesting. So I got my ticket and I committed. And as soon as I did, I realized that I wasn't just in for a 36-hour journey in Canada, because this journey started months before. And I realized that it wasn't only going to be a physical challenge, it was going to be a mental, emotional, spiritual, all the things challenge. Now, I understood that I needed a specific goal. I needed a vision for this journey, because doing a hike like this is not something you can wing. So I began months of training. Now, I would consider myself an active person. I love going to the gym. I love to go on runs at least once a week, and I see my personal trainer every few days. But deciding to do the Everesting hike meant that I had to take it all to a whole new level. So no missing sessions, no getting bored and stopping for a couple of weeks, no quitting if I didn't see progress. I really needed to focus on the task ahead and to commit to actually doing this thing, doing the training. And I realized that I needed to intentionally carve time out for my training. So if I had a meeting during a training slot, I would make the training up later that day. If I wasn't getting good sleep, I would make myself shut off the computer and go to bed and make sure that my body was well rested. So I got this extensive training plan from the organizers of the hike, and I integrated the workouts to be personalized for me by my trainer. So he looked at their program and he adapted it for me and what he knows about me and my body and the niggles in my knee and all the things that he knows, because we've worked together for years. And the workouts were way more intensive than I was used to. I tracked everything, I worked hard, I reported in, and I really made time for this. And even though it was hard, I ended up absolutely loving the training. In fact, the preparation was one of my favorite parts of the whole experience. And at this point of training, I began to notice how big a role that people around me played in my progress. And so I had my personal trainer, I had a chiropractor, and I had a massage therapist, and they were all helping make sure that my physicality was going to be right, that all the kinks were going to be ironed out, that my hip flexor wasn't going to let me down, or my knee wasn't going to let me down, that my body was recovering, that I was doing the right volume of training, that I was doing the right training. And the experts from the organization that was running it were all helping me on this journey. And maybe for the first time in my life, I was compliant. Now, compliant is not a word that I would describe myself as, but I found that in this situation, it was an asset to just do what I said I was going to do what they told me to do. If they told me to stretch, if they told me to do these 5 exercises before I went to bed, if they told me to do this workout for this many times at this particular heart rate, I was going to do it. If they told me to refuel and eat this and eat that, I was going to do it. Because my coaches, my mentors for this hike, they knew more than I did. They were experts when it came to these hikes. They told me what I needed to do to train, when I needed to do it, and I trusted them. Just like I would never have signed up for a hike like this without a support system around me, I would never have made it up the mountain without the incredible team around me helping me get there. And I want to say it's the same in business. When you find a coach, a mentor, and I'm so privileged to coach and mentor so many women business owners, then you want to respect that their experience, that when their coaching is what you want to do to get the result you want to get. So for me, that result is helping women run businesses, organize businesses, do great marketing, hire great people. And so for me, once I committed to these people were going to be on my team, they were going to be my mentors and experts, then I really leaned into their advice. And I think often as business owners, we need to remember to lean on people more often. We need a support system, expert guidance, and the willingness to trust and follow other people's advice. And it's all about surrounding yourself with the right kind of people and being open to learning new things. So after months and months and months of preparation, we finally got to Whistler, PJ and I, and my friend Dina, and we were ready to hike. And there was another group of people that we knew who were doing it, about 6 people. And we came in with this whole plan. So to reach the Everest height, you need to summit Blackcomb Mountain 8 times. But we decided we would do 6 summits on the first day, which meant getting done and getting to bed and getting a little bit of sleep at around 1 a.m. in the morning. And then that would give us a good head start. Then we would get up early the next morning and be back on the mountain to do the final 2 ascents and be done before the 36 hours was up. Now, that was our plan. And as you know, we can have a plan and things don't go to plan. And so I want to let you know that that's not what happened. Firstly, by the 2nd summit, I was ready to quit. I felt done. So despite us having watched the weather for weeks and weeks, it didn't go as planned. It was predicted to be clear, but the rain started right as we summited the very first time. And from there on, it was a downpour. And I'm talking about for a full day and a half of rain. So we were wearing rain ponchos. We were sweating buckets inside those ponchos. We hadn't trained with ponchos. We were wading through mud where there were no creeks. Suddenly there were creeks. And remember, we are on a ski slope. We are on a trail up where people normally ski. So it was just getting muddier and muddier and slipperier and slipperier. And it was already steep. And I was so done. I just wanted to quit. I didn't really need to do this. I had already done the hard work of training. I had already been up the summit once. I could stop, right? So the voice in my head was telling me those things really loudly. But I forced myself to remember that I made a commitment to myself. I said that I was going to do this and that I would complete it. And I had two goals. One was to complete, the other was to not be broken physically at the end of it, that my body would hold up. But I'd made a commitment to others as well. So I felt like I was held accountable for this slippery mess, literally, that I'd gotten myself into. So I actually needed to walk the talk for my community. If I quit, I would be going against everything I have ever said about determination and grit and perseverance, all those elements that you need to succeed in business. So I couldn't just abandon them while climbing the mountain. Those values, those things I hold very dear. So I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. I kept my eyes on the path ahead, and I just kept hiking. And I think what truly got me through that second ascent and the following ones were my two pace buddies, the friend who talked me into the whole thing, and a good friend and mentor, who I'll mention again later on. The three of us became, pace buddies. And if any of us needed to stop, we would all stop together. If we needed motivation to move, we would be there to give that to each other. If we needed food, we'd make sure that we stopped to have a bite to eat or that we refueled. So the entire time, we kind of refueled each other with whatever was lacking at that moment. And we mutually agreed that we would have to re-strategize because of the downpour. So we had all said we'll do 6 ascents, get a little bit of rest, get back up. Because it was getting dark, it was getting cold, we were wet despite wearing ponchos, and we were exhausted. So when the rain didn't stop, we had to change our plan. And so our original plan of doing 6 ascents and 2 on the next day was scrapped. So instead, on our 5th ascent, we knew we had to call it a day and change our plan. So we worked backwards to ensure that we'd have enough time the next day to complete the remaining 3 ascents. And even though this was not what we planned for, not what we trained for, it still got us to that 8 summit in time with loads of time to spare because we did such great time on day 1. And being adaptable and being able to roll with the punches was essential for this hike and life in general. Plans rarely unfold perfectly, and I'm sure you know that, and we just need to adjust without losing sight of the bigger goal. So I had my hiking buddies, I had the adaptability, but I want to talk about the other main motivation that got me up the mountain 8 times. I decided that I would dedicate each ascent to someone or someones in my life. So through the whole hike, each ascent, and there were 8 of them, I would be doing that for a person or a group of people. And so the first ascent I dedicated to myself. I dedicated to who I was when I first started in business, to the woman who grew despite all the doubt and the setbacks, that woman who had achieved so much. I dedicated that first one just to me. And I'm feeling a little emotional as I tell you this. And I think we all need to give ourselves a little bit more credit, a little more appreciation, because we deserve it, each one of us. The second ascent I dedicated to my family. So to the people who raised me, who supported me, and who worked hard to give me opportunities that they didn't have. The third ascent was to my friends, was dedicated to my friends. The people that I turn to when I'm facing setbacks, the people who I laugh with, the people who support me, who are there when times are tough, the people I'm able to really be me with, 100% of the time, and who accept me just as I am. That third trip up the mountain, that was for them. The fourth trip up the mountain, and we're still on day 1, during that really heavy downpour, rain poncho over me. Oh my God, I was so soaked. I thought about my team at Her Business. I thought about who I wanted to be for them, how I wanted to show up as a leader. I thought about the work that they were doing while I hiked, and how I wanted to be the best I could for them. And my last ascent on the first day, the 5th trip up Blackcomb Mountain, it was dedicated to my mentors. Not just my current mentors, but anyone who had been a mentor to me in my life. And I believe that mentors are some of the most powerful and important people in our lives. Mentors are the people who keep us lifelong learners. And my mentors have given me so much. and I owe strategies, business success, and so much to them. And believe me, I needed their motivation at that last trip up the mountain on the first day. So after getting some rest, I had a really long hot bath with Epsom salts. We headed out very early, like before sunrise. It was just before 6 a.m. We had headlamps on, it was dark. And that ascent, that was dedicated to my clients, the amazing Her business community, of how I wanted to show up for them, how I wanted to support them. I reflected on the now 29 years that I have been supporting women business owners and how so many of the women in our community have been there for a large part of that time, and my commitment to supporting them to grow their businesses. I thought about my business and what it could be. I rethought about and recommitted to giving the best possible experiences I could to the women who come into my world. The seventh ascent, the one so close to the finish, I knew at this point I would be exhausted, I'd have to dig deep, and I dedicated to my partner PJ and my sweet dog Kona. And I thought on how much support and stability comes from my life at home. PJ and I, as this goes to air, are just about to close in on, I think it's 32 years together. And how my daily routines with my loved ones refresh me and refuel me to go out each day and make my business the best it can be, to be the best me I can be. And I took the time to really appreciate the support my partner has given me for all these years in everything I do. And yes, I do tell him that, and I did tell him that once he caught up to me, that is. He's going to love hearing that. And then that final ascent, I dedicated that one to me again. I dedicated to what I had accomplished and what I can accomplish, to what I was capable of, even when I doubted myself. And I thought about my physical body and how grateful I am for what it can do. I thought about my mind and how I love my creativity and my thought process. And I thought about my determination, my grit, my passion, all of the elements that make me who I am, the elements that have kept me going, kept me growing, and kept me on this path that has been so very rewarding. So during each ascent, I was intentional about what, why, and who I was doing this for. Each step up that mountain, I had those people in mind. And sometimes I can tell you those ascents were so hard that I just kept repeating, my mentors, my mentors, my mentors, my team, my team, my team, as my body is burning, right? Thank you to my team. Thank you to my mentors. And this was kind of my internal dialogue. Sometimes it was external. The words were coming out. So during each ascent, I was intentional why I was doing this. Each step up that mountain, I had those people in mind. They were there with me energetically. Their support wasn't just emotional. It kept me going when my own energy was flagging. And I think I want to integrate that type of intentionality into my life more. The appreciation, the dedication to certain activities, to those who support us. Because in everything we do, none of us is actually climbing alone. Sometimes we just forget to acknowledge those around us as we make our way up our very own Everests, those who are supporting us behind the scene. And speaking of support, I do have to mention the incredible volunteers who are on that mountain. Like, the organizers are incredible, but the volunteers are amazing. And this group of volunteers, most of whom have done the climb themselves, they were at every aid station cheering us on. They were in a lot of other places, but they were at every aid station cheering us on. And they had smiles plastered on their faces, and you could hear them cheering your name as you came around the bend in a trail. Now remember, it's raining, it's cold. They are standing still. So they're freezing. They're undercover, but still they are there just waiting to be there for us. And they had cowbells. Yeah, literal cowbells that they would ring to cheer you on. And as silly as it sounds, you'd come out around a bend and you'd hear the cowbells and you'd know, oh, I'm close to an aid station. And then they'd see your name on your bib and they'd call out your name. And it was really very motivating. They were so generous with their time. They had food for us. They had bandages if you needed them. They had hot cups of cocoa and ramen noodles at the top of the mountain where it was freezing cold. They were just ready to help with whatever you needed. And there was one moment where one of the volunteers handed me a beaded bracelet that spelt out the word brave. I'm going to put a photo of it in our show notes. She had a craft business, and she shared her story with me very quickly as I was fueling up at the aid station, as I caught my breath. And that connection, those small interactions that end up being so powerful, that make a difference to me, because it made me realize, you know what, I'm doing something pretty brave right now. And I actually thought I lost that little bracelet at one point. You'll see it. It's a little like something, it's this cute little bracelet. And I was so disappointed because it's become like a little talisman of me I did a brave thing. And someone saw that and appreciated it. And it's just a great example of taking a moment to acknowledge someone. Now, in business, we often talk about building a strong team, but it's not just about who you hire. It's about the community you build around you, the clients that cheer you on, the partners that push you to keep going, and the volunteers who ring those cowbells when you need it the most. And I want to make another point here. It's about taking time to appreciate what we've done. It's been a month or so since I completed hiking that mountain 8 times. And for the weeks after, I just really moved on. I had a vacation, I've been to my mastermind. Now, despite training for months and putting so much of my time into this, I just moved on really quickly, onto the next thing, onto the next focus, the next launch, the next webinar we're going to run, the next podcast I'm going to record, whatever it is, because there's always something else to turn your attention to when you're running a business. And it wasn't until I was in conversation with my mentor and hiking buddy just a few days ago, and we were talking about the experience. And I realized that I had done that. I had just moved on. And here's the thing. I hiked the height of Everest in under 36 hours, way under 36 hours. And that is pretty darn amazing. So if there's something that you've done recently, it doesn't have to be hiking a mountain, and you haven't taken the time to process what you did, I really encourage you to do that. So don't just rush on to the next thing in life. Take the time to really celebrate your successes, your achievements, because the whole purpose in pushing yourself and trying new things, in doing the hard stuff, is enjoying the process along the way. It's not always getting the goal, it's that process along the way. So I want to encourage you to celebrate yourself as you're listening to this. Remember how incredible you are, and reimagine the kind of things that you can do that are possible for you. There really aren't any goals that are too lofty, even those that are goals that are as high as Everest. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to share this story with you. I hope that you found it useful and that it inspires you to take and set big goals for yourself and to really go for them, and surround yourself with the support that's going to help you get there. And when you achieve them, to give yourself the acknowledgement that you deserve. I love doing this show for you, and I appreciate you listening and sharing the show with your friends. If you enjoyed this episode, would you let me know? You can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. You can also hop across to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating or review. I would absolutely love that. It would totally make my day. I want to give a shout out to someone who listened to one of our episodes recently and did go ahead and leave us a review. And that is Bronwyn E. She identified herself as. Now, I interviewed one of my mentors, someone who's been very influential in my life, a man named Dr. Robert Cialdini. And the interview was called Why People Say Yes. And she gave it 5 stars. She said, "This is it. There is so much value in this show. I can't tell you how the episode of with Dr. Robert Cialdini blew my mind. Thank you." So we will put a link to that in the show notes. As I said, if you enjoyed this episode, let me know. Email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. We're also at Her Business on Instagram, so you can DM me there if that's easier for you. We are going to put a summary of what we've covered today, as well as links to other resources if you want more information. And I'll give you the link to 29029. They're about to open up the doors, I think, soon for the 2025 hikes. So if you're interested in doing something like that for yourself, you could do that. You'll find our show notes over at herbusiness.com/275. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you back here real soon. If you don't already subscribe, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you get the next episode. We're coming up with great interviews and great topics that'll support you in your business. Bye for now.